Hey, welcome back everyone. How you doing? It is me, Mr. 4K Upscaler. So, on this video we're going to talk about the HDR regarding the Division 2, Ubisoft Division 2. And my goodness, does it look great. This video is recorded in HDR, native 4K. So not only are you going to be getting a native 4K video, but at the same time you'll be getting an HDR decoded as well. So if your YouTube app supports the HDR, then you will be able to enjoy this video in HDR. And I highly suggest that you wait for this video to be processed in HDR and 4K so that you can see exactly what I'm talking about. For those of you who don't have the Xbox One X, or for those of you who are skeptical about the HDR and 4K, I think this will be a great example on how to properly implement HDR in the game. And I think Ubisoft is definitely that one company that gets it, that truly understands on how to properly implement the HDR. So let's find a good position here somewhere and let's try to implement the HDR here and show you exactly what I'm talking about. Alright, so let's go to the settings really quick. Just give me a second. And let's go to the graphics. Here's a great thing about the HDR on the Division 2. Not only do you have the ability to utilize your HDR peak brightness, but at the same time you have the ability to utilize the contrast levels. You have the ability to utilize the sharpening levels, and you also obviously have the ability to utilize the brightness levels. And on top of that, you also have the peak brightness for the user interface elements as well. So you have full control of the HDR implementation on top of the picture settings within this game. So that's like totally open tools that you got to get the best possible calibration for your HDR and your television, meaning this game will just look top-notch with HDR and 4K. I'll probably say this is by far the best HDR game, and it's an open beta. Why? Because it's giving you so many different elements to adjust your HDR. Unlike Anthem and the other games out there that doesn't even give you the option to adjust the HDR. Every game should have the ability to adjust the HDR peak brightness, to adjust the black digital levels, paper white bright digital levels, and it should also give you the ability to adjust the contrast, sharpening, brightness, color, among many other things. And Ubisoft actually went as far to even let you adjust the HDR peak brightness for your UI elements, which is crazy. That shows you just how much they care. But without any further ado, let me go ahead and let me show you how this game looks in HDR. I'm gonna go through this game. I'm gonna get my sound up a little bit, like that. And another cool thing about this game is the fact that there's a dynamic time and weather. It changes just like in the previous games. But this new engine they're using, it's much better. Not only does it look better, but it feels better when you're playing it. When you're controlling characters, it doesn't feel clumsy. It feels very smooth and fluid, and I think that's the important part. Okay. Now another great example of HDR will be right here, obviously. The the reflection of the light and everything. And I'm purposely doing this like this so that way you guys can experience this HDR while you are watching this video. But overall, how I feel about the game, I think the game it's great. I think the Ubisoft definitely learned from the mistakes they made on the previous game with the bugs. You know, the first game had a lot of bugs. I'll be honest. The first Division, yes, I did play it, but it had all sorts of issues, all sorts of problems. That's not the case here. This one, it's running smooth. It looks great. And it's good to see Ubisoft like coming back and making their games look great. And they're definitely the best when it comes to HDR. I would say the Ubisoft and of course the company that made Forza, I think Turn 10, or was it Playground Games? They really, those two companies, they really know how to implement HDR properly. What do we mean by implementing HDR properly? Meaning the tone mapping, like every and each level has to be tone mapped properly, from the clouds, from the sky, from the reflection light to the shadows. All of these elements have to be implemented properly in order for HDR to be able to, you know, look its best. And I don't see that on the Anthem. Anthem, honestly, it's a fake HDR. It's not even, can't even call it a real HDR, honestly. It's just some compression. It just looks butt ugly. I don't know what the hell's going on with the EA. But it's just not good, man. As you can see, using the accuracy with the guns, it's much better this time around. Overall, I like the game. I'm definitely going to be picking this up. This looks like a lot of fun. But please do keep in mind, I would like to, you know, we have to mention the elephant in the room. I mean, everyone should know this. Anybody who goes in buying this game needs to understand one thing, and one thing only. This is online only. You will need to be connected to their servers. And once the Ubisoft servers go down, and once they don't support this game, you will not be able to play this game ever again. So I just want you to understand that when you go ahead and purchase this game. Okay, there's no single player offline mode here. It's just all online. Same thing goes with the Anthem. You know, you have to be connected to the servers. And this is something that I don't think it's worth, honestly, they shouldn't be charging people $60, but it seems to be a new trend going on now where they're charging people $60 for the games that require you to be on their server, which I think it's BS. But that's where we're going, honestly. And I'm kind of glad that Sony is still doing the single player games, because to me that's important, man. It's important to be able to play the games offline. It's important for me to have some sense of the ownership of the game, that you can play it. When you pay for it, it's yours. You know, I like that idea. Now if you look at here, you will see just how beautifully that light is being represented here. That beam of light passing through his hair. This is a great HDR right here, and it's implemented really good. Like if you look at that light right there, that's another great implementation of HDR right here. Like I said, they just know how to do it properly. You know. Which is not surprising, looking at the Assassin's Creed Odyssey and the previous Assassin's Creed, I think Origins was it? It shows you just that they really know how to do it. They mastered it properly, and I think EA and Rockstar should hire Ubisoft to do HDR implementation. Seriously, I'm sure Ubisoft will do it if the price is right. Because I really don't understand why it's so difficult for some of these developers to implement the HDR properly. I mean, HDR has been around for a long time. I mean, good God, I mean, what's the problem? I just don't understand why it's so difficult for them to implement it properly. Especially for the game like Juggernaut, like Red Dead Redemption 2. Are you kidding me? And then even Anthem, like, really? It's not bad enough that you can't even adjust the HDR, but there's not even an icon that tells you that the HDR it's on or off, or that you can turn it on and off. On the PC version you can turn it on and off, but on the console doesn't even show up. It's a total mess. It's a total mess. I don't know what EA's doing, BioWare, I mean, just I just don't get it, dude. I just don't get it. As you can see, it's very fluid. The gameplay is very fluid, and it looks really good. You see that the muzzle shot when he fires it, a reflection on the ground. That shows you how greatly HDR it's reading that dynamic light information. Nice shot.
I've got eyes on a division agent heading north toward the White House. Looks like they've cut down a group of hyenas and are headed this way.
Agent, if you can hear us on this frequency, keep pushing forward and blindside these bastards.
Alright, so I'm gonna go ahead and here we got to the White House over here. But I'm gonna go ahead and end this game right here, because this is HDR. This will take a lot of hard drive space for me to record this and then show it to you. But remember, the whole purpose of this video is just to show you the HDR, so you can check it out for yourself in this 12 minutes, 13 minutes. It looks great, and like I said, the great thing about it is there's morning, daylight, night, rain, snow. You got all different dynamic time, dynamic weather elements to it, which is gonna also help the HDR look amazing as well. And like I just showed you, there's so many different options you got. Not only do you have a bunch of HDR options, but you also got the user interface HDR peak brightness option on top of the contrast, sharpness, brightness. So you got a lot of cool options for the HDR here on the Division 2. So Division 2, definitely it's shaping up to be an awesome HDR experience. But that's not it. We got Devil May Cry coming out. Devil May Cry 5. I want to see how HDR is going to look there. I'm pretty sure Devil May Cry 5 HDR will look fantastic. But what Ubisoft is doing here is definitely the way HDR should be done. This is the way it should be done. This is the way every game should implement HDR. And hopefully other companies will learn from Ubisoft. I only hope. Alright, so well, there you have it, guys. I hope you liked this video, and like I said, you'll have to wait for it to process. Once it's processed, then you can enjoy it. Thank you.